and welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raeleen. Hola.
Whoop, whoop. Hola, everyone. I'm going to start right off the bat with a comment that we got last week. This comment is from Kat Reads a Bunch.
Okay.
They say, I just started watching this episode, but I have to say, I'm missing the weather updates.
Oh.
And so, let us begin with a weather update, Raeleen.
That's actually
What's the weather in Calgary like?
That's a really good shout, actually, because it's been a little crazy lately. So it's been on and off, like we'll get a really nice summery day, and then we'll get a day that's like a little bit cooler. But a couple of days ago, we had the biggest downpour I've seen yet in Calgary.
Okay,
It
cool.
was pouring rain. There was thunder. There was lightning, and
Beautiful.
we went out to go get coffee in the morning, and it was pouring rain. And the way that there were so many puddles, in the turning lanes and stuff, that just was uncontrollable. I was watching so many cars just make tidal waves going through these puddles.
Yeah.
I was like, it's been raining for 2 hours. How is this already a problem? So that was interesting to see, but it was really great. I really enjoyed it. It was nice and stormy, and I heard possibly the loudest thunder I've ever heard at one point. It was, we saw lightning, and then a second later we heard this really intensely loud thunder, and I was like, okay, I feel like that happened right next to us, maybe, and that's kind of spooky.
Might have.
But
That is scary.
I've never heard it be that close, but it was really cool. But today it's a nice day, not too hot, which is perfect for me because I'm going to the zoo later.
Nice. Oh my God, that's amazing. I have a fun little zoo related thing to talk to you about later.
Okay.
Which, you'll see. Don't get too excited, okay? That's a really
that could
tiny
mean anything.
It's a very tiny detail. Well, it's officially summer now, right? June 21st marks summer.
True.
And we're recording this on June 23rd. So, and when it comes out, it will only be a few days before July.
Yeah.
And obviously because of school, July and August feel like summer.
That's
true. That's actual pure summer. We're very trained, that's the summer break. And I know other places in the world don't have a July-August break. My mom growing up in Honduras had a December-January break. And stuff. So different places do different things. But here in Canada, you got summers off. Yeah. And that was the time of pure joy. And so forever, July and August, they feel like the weekend of the year. You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
It's right? A little bit. Anyways, so it has been pretty classic early summer in Nova Scotia. Very rainy, interspersed with a lot of mildly sunny days. Classic June. Everyone's always a little disappointed because it rains so much. Which I'm sorry, Raeleen, I'm not trying to rub that in.
I'm jealous.
It rains so much that people are we just want real, quote unquote, real summer to start. Because you try and plan for things and then things get rained out, right? But tomorrow is supposed to go up to 31.
Oh my God.
Which, for context, in Canada, weather in the temperatures in the 30s, that's the highest it gets. If you ever hear of a day that's 35 or 36, that's a scary. People won't go outside.
Yeah.
With 30, that's kind of normal for a really hot summer day. You get a couple of those a year. 31-ish, it's kind of weird that it's this early in the year, but then there's supposed to be a thunderstorm the next day that cuts the weather.
That's
I always think
that's
so cool.
It's super hot, and then suddenly it'll be thunderstorm.
Which always breaks the heat. So that's right. Today it's a cloudy-ish day. We did have some rain this morning, but now I'm starting to see blue skies come out. So that's our weather report. Very important. This week has been a very busy week. I have a friend coming to visit that I'm very excited about, and she comes in 3 days.
Oh my God.
And so the last week was me just trying to do a bunch of stuff so that when she comes, I can feel I can really take time off.
Yeah.
And now I'm in the crunch time. There are 3 days. I have 3 days to finish all of my hopes, dreams, and desires. And then it really feels like summer's kicking off. But also, Connor and I went to a Smash tournament for him, which was really fun. He won first place in doubles and third place in singles, and he won enough cash that it paid for the whole trip.
Oh, yay! Round of applause for Connor.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then I also, my big fun thing of the week was that I went to a shop I've been meaning to go to for like almost 2 years now, I think. And I've been in Kentville plenty of times, but for some reason I just keep not going. Also, a couple of times I've gone, like there was their day that they were closed, or I just kept missing it. But finally I went to Freedom Miniatures.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
It's a miniature store.
Makes sense.
That sells miniature things. Mostly on a 1/12 scale, my preferred scale. Basically 1/12 means that 1 inch is representative of 1 foot in real life, right? So it's kind of like a nice way to shrink everything down.
Yeah.
Look, this is just one of the many things that I purchased. A tiny window.
Looks like a pretty big window for a tiny window, though. You know what I mean?
It reminds me of the windows in my house, because my house has giant windows.
True. Yeah.
And so it feels like one of my own windows. And I want to install this in my miniature room so that it looks like my house. Like it's like one of my windows, which I think is
Are you going to put like an image behind it so it looks like there's something outside the window? That's sick.
Definitely.
That's
for
so
sure,
cool.
for sure. I know, I'm so excited. But I actually made a whole vlog about this for the Patreon, Raeleen, which will be out by the time that this episode goes live. But I made a whole vlog going to the miniature shop because I had a mission of finding a tiny bookshelf and then coming home and like dressing it up and putting it on my own bookshelf. So if people want to see that vlog, it was really funny because the day that I went to Kentville, I had no idea it was their motorcycle rally. There was hundreds of motorcycles everywhere, which is just a lot. It was very, very loud.
Yeah, that's certainly a vibe. Maybe not the vibe, but
it was a vibe, which was just very funny because I'm like in a tiny shop with tiny things, and outside you just hear rum, 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 and you're like, okay.
The opposite of what you would expect to be feeling in that moment.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and I got some cutie things, and I also just like, I really got the scope of the land, you know? Like I saw so much mini furniture and mini items that now I'm like scheming. I'm like, that was like a scouting trip. Now I'm back. I can really process what I saw so that the next time I go, I know exactly what I want to get.
So you got that little window there?
I got this little window.
Bookshelf? Did you get anything
The little
else?
bookshelf. I also got a little, like a tiny chest of drawers, not like a little cabinet. Aww. Oh, so beautiful. A miniature wrench. Oh,
wow.
Some tiny utensils, a little cup of coffee.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah, see, I always just think of the small furniture. I never think about the little details. There's even tinier things that you can get.
Very, very tiny things. So, oh, and I also got an electric light. This has been a thing I've wanted ever since I built the miniature room. I'm like, I would love to have a chandelier hanging from the ceiling that turns on. And I bought one. So now I have to rig that all up.
Oh,
but
my God.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting
That's
stuff.
sick.
How about you? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Pretty chill, honestly. I've spent the whole week, like, trying to read as much as possible because, as you kind of mentioned last week, we have a secret book that we are reading for episode 300, and so I was like, I need to stay on track with this. So I can't reveal what that was, but I was reading that, and so once I finished reading that, I was like, okay, it's time to like read more stuff. And as we'll get to when we talk about our reading, my reading was pretty tumultuous this week, but I just kept trying. I just kept trying was the thing, and so I didn't really do much else, but I did reorganize my bookshelves, as I'm sure people might be able to tell. I did this as a video for our Patreon, so great plugs for both of us there.
Wow.
So that is up on the Patreon now. I just did a whole video like, here's my plan, and then it was a time lapse of me doing it. So essentially what I did is I separated out my unread and read books because I haven't done that since I moved here. My books have been organized kind of by genre since I set them up, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time to mix things up a little bit because I've been not really in a reading slump, but kind of like hovering on the edge of a reading slump recently. And so I really find that having all of my unread books in a beautiful rainbow like this just makes me so excited to read them and to look at them and to pick them out. And so I am really happy that I did that. And on that video, I actually got a funny comment because I have this little rat boy on my shelf. He's knitted by my friend Julia. She gave him to me and he was on the bookshelves, and so you can see it in the video. And so we got this funny comment from Claire who just said, "Is that a rat on your shelf? I think you need to call the Calgary Rat Hotline, stat!" And I responded saying, "No, he's my special boy. Please don't call the police." But it got me thinking, like when that happened, I was like, yeah, a rat on my shelf. Should I start collecting rat books?
Whoa.
Maybe. Because
very
also
interesting.
while organizing my books, of course, I like got an up close look at my cat book collection again. And so I was like, oh yes, the cat books. I'll put those here. And I was like, how funny would it be if I got rat books and put them
That's
with
really
the cat
interesting.
books?
That's very interesting. I'm like, what is a rat book? I think Mouse by Art Spiegelman.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
That
it could be
could
more
count.
like rodent. I might call them rodent books because
Yeah, because maybe rat would be too limiting.
but I do like
Yeah,
rat
but
and
maybe-
cat. And when I
Yeah.
did a brief research
True.
for this to see if there were rat books, and there's like an entire list or a Reddit post or something that's just like books where rats are the good guys is what somebody made a
that's
post about.
interesting.
And I was like, that is actually very cool. Because a lot of times rats are the bad guys. And that actually
Yeah.
reminds me of a bookstore in Vancouver that I took you to once. So that, you probably remember they had lots of little shelves that had different labels on them, like weird specific categories. And there was one
Yeah.
category that was cat books, which I have bought a few cat
Yes.
books from there before. But they have another section that's called Rodent as Hero. And it was just amazing. And now I'm like wishing that I could look at that section. I wish I could go
that's
there.
Interesting.
But now I want that. I want to have both
I
of
bought
those
a book
sections.
last year that was called Stowaway. I don't know if you remember
Oh,
that one.
yeah.
But it's kind of the history of rats and how they've affected. It's so funny. I like that you're pro rat. I'm very very anti rat.
And I understand. I just think they're cute. Like that's pretty much all it is.
They are very cute. I guess I can't get over that they are carriers of insane disease and they destroy the foundations of many important buildings like houses. And
Yeah.
so they also destroy crops and gardens.
Yeah.
They're a menace.
But there was these girls that lived near me when I was a kid who had 2 pet rats. And I think about that sometimes. I'm like, is that why I like rats so much? Because I like played with nice rats? Like
That's
I really like them.
fascinating.
I really
So,
like those rats.
Early rat exposure.
Yeah. But I've never like had a rodent since then. I'm not really a rodent gal, but I do like rodents a lot.
That's so fascinating. I like your obsession with rats, and I think a rat collection could be really, really cool.
So if anybody has rat recs,
On the
please send them my
other
way.
hand, though, I don't think that your collection should be rats as heroes, as I believe that is too biased. I think it should just be rats in general to show a mixture of the good
Absolutely.
and the bad.
I agree. I would like to get your Stowaway book as well. If I'm going to be making this collection, that seems like an essential text to have.
Yeah.
But then I also need
really
one where the rat is like a little hero with a sword. Like what's that book series for kids? That's where they're all rats.
Moss Farm? No. It's something like that.
Redwall. That's what I'm
Redwall.
thinking of. I know they're not
Yes.
all rats. I never read those though.
I
Anyway,
never read those either.
I might have to get one.
Lena's currently reading those because they are some of her husband's favorite books.
Yeah.
And she's telling me that they're great, actually. So they've recently come up in my life.
I have
which
a
is
friend
funny.
who's obsessed with them, so
Oh,
it all
interesting.
tracks.
Okay, well, this kind of segues into one other thing I wanted to mention, which was, I think it was last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? It's all blurred for me now. I shared my tech gone wrong list, right? When I was looking for the tech gone wrong list, I started to notice a fishy women vibe.
Ooh.
Like Pisces,
Yeah.
like chlorine,
Oh, like literally fishy, yeah.
but also like Our Wives Under the Sea.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, there's definitely a women as fish category that I wanted to explore. And I wrote down fishy women.
Ooh.
And then we got this comment on our Discord from Megan Noley, I think, who shared a post that Penguin Books shared.
Oh.
They've introduced The Mermaid collection.
Oh, Oh.
It's a little misleading, as I do not believe any of the 4 books they've launched the collection with have mermaids in them.
Okay.
Or even like fishiness. It says that celebrating 90 years, this gorgeous new series features neglected works of popular mid to late 20th century novels written by women who address issues that remain relevant today.
Oh, okay.
So they've announced this series of books that's getting published, and it's published through Penguin Michael Joseph, which I think is an imprint. And those books are coming out in September. I wanted to share them because I think this will be up so many people's alley.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
And then, yeah, so anyways, I feel like I've got to do something with this fishy women vibe. So
Absolutely.
maybe I should do fishy women, you should do rats, and that's perfect.
That's perfect.
Let's talk about books, shall we? I bought some books, and I think maybe that would be a fun place for us to start.
Always.
I have a friend who's moved to Halifax, and every time we hang out, I've been showing them like a different part of Halifax. And this time I took them to Dartmouth, which is in fact not Halifax, but is right across the harbor. And so we went over to Dartmouth and we walked up and down Portland Street, which is like the nice, well, there's lots of nice streets in Dartmouth, but it's like the main street, you know, like where there's lots of cute shops and cafes and things. And I took her to Friction Books, which I've mentioned to you before is one of my faves. Did I take you to Friction Books?
I don't
No, think so.
It doesn't
I don't
ring
think
a bell.
We had time.
Yeah.
I don't think we had time. If we did, damn, we both forget, so that's okay. I got 4 books. I think the curation at that bookshop is so good. Like every book that I pick up, I find really interesting. But I found 4 books that I thought were really cool. The first one is The World Ending Fire, The Essential Wendell-Berry, selected and with an introduction by Paul Kingsnorth. This is funny because I've hauled this before. I don't know if I hauled this. I may have owned this like before I even started the podcast kind of thing, so I may not have hauled it on here or whatever. But this is a book that sounds so fascinating to me. I'm very curious about Wendell-Berry. I haven't read much by him, but the stuff that I have read, like his essays, some of his essays, I found really interesting. He was like a writer and an essayist, but also a farmer, and like he knew a lot about the natural world and things, and was very much like an environmentalist and stuff. So it's like stuff about living in harmony with nature, things like that. Just very interesting takes. And I bought this book years ago thinking that sounds great. Then it was a friend of mine's birthday. And I was like, oh my God, that book would be perfect for them. And when I looked into ordering it, it was going to take too long to arrive.
No. Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just give them my copy and I'll buy this the next time I see it. And I never have seen it until now. And so I finally got it. And
Cool.
this is kind of funny because it's just like replacing it onto my own shelves.
Yeah.
Like I already
It's a weird
own
feeling.
this.
Yeah, you're like, and you're mentally you owned it even if you didn't
Exactly.
physically have it.
Exactly. The next one I got is News from Nowhere and Other Writings by William Morris. This is very interesting because I think when people think about William Morris, they obviously think about wallpaper because that is the legacy of him is people really love his prints. They love his designs. But I think a lot of people don't know that he was a writer, and most importantly, he was like a very active political person. He really believed in the connection between people and modes of production, and the arts and crafts movement was very like socialist, and like people should control and enjoy and spread beauty through the work that they do. It's all very fascinating. And I've done some research about William Morris before for a different project I did a long time ago, and I just find him to be a very curious figure. I love his art, but I haven't read that much of his actual writing, other than a few essays here and there. So again, I thought this would be cool. And what's fascinating is that News from Nowhere is, I think, a short novel. Maybe it's a novella, but it says the main character is called William Guest, who wakes one morning to find himself in the year 2102.
Whoa.
So it's like 200, 300 years in the future from when this was written, and discovers a society that has changed beyond recognition. The industrial squalor of the England he knows has given way to a pastoral paradise where people live in equality and contentment. A socialist masterpiece, but it goes from there. So it's like an interesting utopia where he's like thinking in 2100, surely we would have figured out equality. Oh, William.
Oh, William.
All right, this next one is a cutie little book, a little hardcover. A Strange Life, selected essays of Louisa May Alcott.
Oh.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Obviously, when we think of Louisa May Alcott, we think of Little Women. Maybe Joe's Boys. But I don't think of her essays. I had no idea she'd written essays.
She wrote essays, yeah.
Yeah. So the first essay is called How I Went Out to Service. Let me read you the first line. Instantly, I was like, oh, baby, we're in. The first line is, when I was 18, I wanted something to do. Ugh!
That's awesome.
Okay, lead me on this journey. I'll keep going. I had tried teaching for 2 years and hated it. I had tried sewing and could not earn my bread in that way at the cost of health. I tried story writing and got $5 for stories, which now bring $100. I had thought seriously of going upon the stage, but certain highly respectable relatives were so shocked at the mere idea that I relinquished my dramatic aspirations. What shall I do was still the question that perplexed me. I was ready to work, eager to be independent, and too proud to endure patronage. But the right task seemed hard to find. And it goes from there.
Ooh.
That's so interesting.
I love
That's
that.
so interesting. And that essay was written in, what did it just say? 1874. Actually, contemporary to William Morris. That's cool. The final book that I got is The Zoo Thing that I mentioned a second ago. So I spotted this book out of the corner of my eye because I saw the word zoo in the title.
Okay.
It's called Zoo, or Letters Not About Love.
Ooh. Okay.
By Viktor Shklovsky. Translated by Richard Sheldon. So, I saw the title Zoo, and I thought, oh, I should get that for Raeleen. And then I kept reading, and it's a story set in letters. And so I'm not giving it to
I'm
Raeleen.
like, it
I'm
doesn't
keeping
sound
it.
like it's about the zoo at all, maybe.
So it says, while living in exile in Berlin, the formidable literary critic Viktor Shklovsky fell in love with Elsa Triolet. He fell into the habit of sending Elsa several letters a day, a situation she accepted under one condition. He was forbidden to write about love.
Oh.
So he's not allowed to write love letters, even though he's in love with her.
Right.
So this book is an epistolary novel born of this constraint. And although the brilliant and playful letters contained herein cover everything from observations about contemporary German and Russian life to theories of art and literature, every one of them is indirectly dedicated to their author's own unrequited love, the one topic they are all required to avoid.
Whoa.
So I thought that sounded really neat and fun and slightly stressful. There's like a tension there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite short. So I thought that was a neat find.
is awesome.
That I've never heard of this one before.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, never seen it.
So I don't know anything about it. But yeah, there you go. Those are my 4 new books, but one of them I already owned, sort of.
Beautiful.
All right, Ray, what about you?
Well, last week I set myself a challenge.
Yes.
Right? So let me walk you through what happened with said challenge.
Perfect.
So, first up, I had challenged myself to finish reading Rouge by Mona Awad. And that day I was, maybe like 30% of the way through it when I started. And then right after we finished recording the podcast, I was like, I'm going to reorganize my bookshelves right now. And maybe I can listen to this on audiobook, which I did. I found it on audio. It was available from the library. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to listen to this while I organize my shelves. And so since it took about, 2 hours or something total to reorganize my shelves, I listened to a pretty big chunk of this. And I went from I'm enjoying it to I'm not enjoying this at all. And so at exactly the 50% mark,
wow,
I DNF'd this.
Goodbye, Rouge.
So sorry, Rouge, but you're not for me. So that is what happened there. Yeah, it kind of took a weird turn, and like I know that Mona Awad she writes weird stuff. Like I've read Bunny, I like that weird. But this, I don't know, it just wasn't the right kind of weird for me, I guess. That's pretty much the only critique I have of it. I just wasn't vibing with it anymore. For some reason, Tom Cruise was involved in a lot of the book, and I was like, what is going on here? It was very strange. Hard to explain, but very, very strange. The next part of my challenge was to finish reading Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. Right. Do you want to guess what happened with this one?
I'm guessing you DNF'd it.
Same exact thing happened. So I was like, I've been reading it just slowly, like, cause I had it as an ebook from the library. So I was reading it here and there, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. And then I switched to the audiobook because I wanted to play Mario Kart while reading. And so I was listening to it, and I was just like, I'm not really connecting with these characters. Like, I feel like this is a very character forward type of book. Like the two main characters are both young, they're in middle school, both of them are being bullied, and so they become friends, and so you want to root for these people, but the way that they are, like, I just was like, I don't feel like I'm rooting for you guys. Like one of the characters was just so unlikable to a point where I'm like, what is even going on here? It was very strange, and the way it's written is weird too. Like it kind of has that 14-year-olds speaking like they're 35-year-old syndrome. Like they're talking in a way where it's like, what kids would talk like this? And I just found it really hard to connect with, and I just wasn't vibing with it. So unfortunately, I put that down as well. And both of those were very sad because they're authors that I like. Yeah. I want to like read their whole, collection of writings, but I just wasn't into them. Maybe someday I'll change my mind and go back to them, but it was very sad. So I was in this kind of limbo of like, all right, well, what do I do now? What do I read now? And so I did have some books out from the library. So I did end up reading The Wild Robot Escapes by Peter Brown. Peter Brown is an American author and illustrator of children's books who has written and or illustrated over a dozen books. He has won numerous honors, including a Caldecott Honor, a Horn Book Award, and 2 E.B. White Awards, to name a few. The Wild Robot Escapes is the second book in the Wild Robot trilogy and was published in 2017. This one, I actually ended up listening to it on audiobook, which is funny. I took it out from the library, but then I used the library to listen to it on audiobook because, like I said with the other one, I just wanted to play Mario Kart while I was reading, which was really fun. Yeah. So, but I was happy to have the copy because there's so many beautiful illustrations throughout. So every, 20 minutes or something, I would just flip through the book to see what pictures I missed. So it was kind of nice to do it as both, because the audiobook was also like had some extra elements. So like there's, animals in the book, and you'll like hear the animals, or you'll like hear some kind of sound effects for like the actions that people are doing in the book. So it was very immersive. Like I can understand like kids really liking the audiobook as well. It was very cool. That's cool. Yeah. So I read it, and similarly to the first book, like this is just very much for kids. So while I liked it, it doesn't for me transcend the childlike nature that the book has, but it was still interesting, and I'm still intrigued to read the third book because, I mean, as the title indicates, like, the wild robot is going to escape. So essentially in this book, she's working on a farm, and she has to like blend in and pretend to be a normal robot because she grew up basically in the wild. Like she got turned on and she was in the wild, and so that's the whole world she knows. She has never met another robot. She doesn't really know what that life is like. And so in this book, she has to like pretend that she is a normal robot. She doesn't have feelings. She can't talk to animals, all these things. But she doesn't want to be there. She wants to get back home to her family. And so that's the whole plot of the book. And so it's interesting kind of seeing her, like the robot has to kind of grapple with like, should I just stay here and be a normal robot? Like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Or do I do what I want to do and go back home? So yeah, it was an interesting little book. I'm intrigued to see how the story wraps up in the third one. But cool. Yeah, it's not like...
How long was the audiobook?
Like 4.5 hours, 5 hours, something like that.
Oh, that's longer than I would have imagined.
Yeah, I know. It's funny when you look at like the font is just enormous, and there's so many pictures that you'd think that they would be like 2.5 hours or something, but they are a bit longer. But I do have one last reading update before I get into what I'm currently reading. Another little tumultuous thing that happened. So after I finished The Wild Robot Escapes, I was like, all right, let's keep this momentum going. Let's read another library book. And so I decided to pick up Chlorine by Jade Song.
Nice.
I actually was listening to the audiobook for this as well, hilariously enough. I listened to about an hour and a half, and I did not like it at all.
That's so interesting.
was
I'm
really
wondering if you should stop listening to audiobooks.
I really don't think that was the problem, unfortunately. You may be right for other reasons, but I just found the writing style to be really cringy in this. Like,
oh, interesting.
yeah, which I don't often encounter having like a real problem with a writing style like that, but I was like, this is written from the perspective of a teenager, and I don't know, the way that her internal monologue works was just like so annoying. And like, it's also kind of like, I don't know how the rest of the book goes, but from the beginning, it just seems very like strange. Like the main character is a swimmer, and her whole thing is that she's like, I want to become a mermaid, but it's not clear if she means that in a literal sense or if she just wants to be kind of, you know, mythical. Like, it's just kind of strange. So I'm like, I hope she actually does turn into a mermaid, because that would be the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is another one I'm like, maybe it's just the wrong time for me, but I just really was not enjoying the writing style of that. So
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I put it down, but I did start a different book that I am now really enjoying, so it's okay.
So you've DNF'd these 3 books. Rouge and Heaven were books you owned. They weren't from the library. Yeah. Will you give those books away, or will you put them back on your shelves?
You know me. I'm going to get rid of them.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I'm also going to the bookstore today to get rid of some books that I like took off my shelves when I was reorganizing. So I'm like, you know what? They're coming with me. It's my first time taking books to a new bookstore for credits.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was going to ask. Does it hurt extra that they're hardcover?
Well, one of them I bought used, like Heaven. I did buy that used from my used bookstore back home. And so it was pretty cheap, but Rouge does hurt a bit.
Yeah, that hurts.
Because it's like, I bought it brand new. I took forever to read it. It's definitely out in paperback now. And I finally get to reading it, and I'm like, I'm not even going to finish that. It does hurt.
I honestly wonder if I should ever buy a hardcover again.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm like, just wait. Just think hard in your heart. Like, do you really need it right this second?
So, and you know what? Sometimes you do. Like, I'm glad, for example, that I bought Everything is Tuberculosis in hardcover, because I read it right away and I enjoyed it right away, and that's great. But that's rare. The usual thing that I do isn't buy a book and read it right away. Usually I buy a book and then it gets added to the queue. I'm already reading a few other things, so I'm not going to drop everything to read that one, and then who knows where the mood may take me. And then it's been a year and the paperback's out. And I'm like,
and I prefer paperbacks, as I'm sure you do too. Like,
yes, so it's not even just the money. It's also literally a paperback form factor is a happier reading situation. Mm-hmm.
It's so silly. Yeah, we keep
something to think about there. Well, that's an exciting journey that you went on. Kind of a stressful journey in some ways.
Yeah,
but it seems that it had to happen.
I feel like, because I have, like, after reorganizing my shelves, I was like, wow, there's so many possibilities for me. Like, there's so many things I want to read. And I was like, I just have to get through what at that point kind of felt like homework. I was like, okay, I guess I got to finish these books so that I can have that freedom. And instead of pushing through and, you know, continuing to read when I wasn't enjoying it, I was like, let's just move on to the next thing. thing. And sometimes the next thing worked and sometimes it didn't. And now I'm in a place where I feel very fresh. So cool. I feel like it's okay. I feel like it happened for a reason.
It's never a good sign if what you're reading feels like homework.
Yeah, I know. It's awful. But I also don't like DNFing something just for no reason. It's like, oh, I'm just not in the mood for it, so I'm going to DNF. It's like, no, I want to at least like give it a chance. But
that's interesting. Yeah. I'm glad that you're free. I'm free. Now you can flap your wings.
Aww.
Well, I also finished a book this week, and it is Half Breed by Maria Campbell. Maria Campbell is a Métis writer, playwright, filmmaker, scholar, teacher, community organizer, activist, and elder. Half Breed is regarded as a foundational work of Indigenous literature in Canada. It was published originally in 1973. 5 out of 5 stars. I will be talking about this book forevermore.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Everyone needs to read it. Hey, you listening? You should read it. You should especially listen to the audiobook, which is what I did for the entirety of the text. So it is read by Maria Campbell. It was it says on the back, a new fully restored edition of the essential Canadian classic. So this book, I mean, it's so fascinating. There's so many things that I want to say. What I will say about this like new restored edition and like the newly released audiobook and like what's the kind of story behind that, it's a real the book reflecting literally the themes that she's writing about. So when she wrote this book in the 70s and it was published, the publisher said, we should remove these 2 pages that made up like a short chapter because they depict sexual assault by the RCMP to Maria Campbell. And in the 70s, and I'm not commenting on it, I'm just stating what happened. In the 70s, the publisher felt that if that got published, the book would get tanked. Like, no one's going to read this book because that is like too taboo. People in Canada aren't ready to face that kind of a scandal. Wow. / you'll probably go into such like legal stuff that it will like ruin this book. Like you'll go into debt. Like, and that was what he told Maria Campbell. Like, we don't know what their other ulterior motives are or whatever. Again, I'm just stating what happened. She said, no, you have to publish those 2 pages. They happened to me. Yeah. That is a thing that happened to me. This is my memoir. And that happened to me. And he said, okay, the book gets published. The pages were not published. He lied to her.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy.
That gave me crazy. Honestly, that scared me to my core.
Yeah, it's really, really scary that happened to the. So it's like it's one of those things where sometimes in publishing, the journey that the book itself goes on adds to the legend of the book. You know. Anyways, so those pages were lost. I believe it was a handwritten manuscript. Like, I think she handwrote this book. Again, it was the 70s, so typewriters were there, but like computers weren't there, and she just chose to handwrite it. She gave the manuscript in, the pages were lost. She didn't have a copy at home that included those pages. Yeah. So those pages were literally lost to time. And then they were rediscovered. And she actually thanks she says, thank you, in the acknowledgements, she says, thank you, Alex and Deanna, for the missing pages.
Oh, wow.
So the pages were rediscovered, and finally this book was able to be published in its full form. Well, now it was like over a decade ago. But yeah, so this is the edition that is now available, and it's the edition that she reads in the audiobook, which is really cool. Yeah. And there's like a new little afterword. It's very short, but there's a new afterword that came out. Again, I think it was 2019, which is cool as well, because it's very... Okay, well, here's what I'll say about the book, right? This depicts the life of Maria Campbell up until her, like, mid-30s. She was born in 1940, so it's depicting the 40s, 50s, and 60s, which is fascinating because now that's almost a century ago, and at least it's, like, half a century ago when it got published, but it's almost a century ago that this stuff that the beginning of her life happened. And you get this fantastic account of her life as a Métis woman who was born and raised in very rural northern Saskatchewan, and then moves to Calgary and Vancouver, and then eventually returns home to Saskatchewan. But she moves away to like these urban centers when she's 20, and it lives away from home for a long time before she returns. It is a very difficult read. The first half of it, hard stuff happens, and there's like, basically it's a story of immense poverty. So hard stuff happens, but there's also a lot of joy. There's also a lot of fun learning about like the funny things that her and her siblings got up to. And she's able to do this thing that I find my parents do sometimes, where they like tell you a story about an objectively horrifying thing that happened in their past, but they're telling it in like a funny way where you're just like, yeah, I mean, it's your life. You can look at it however you want to look at it, right? So she tells these stories that are very scary, and it's a dark thing that happened to her, but she's got a lot of brevity and lightness, and she sees the humor in it, which just creates such a rich picture of her life. The book gets darker and darker as she gets older, because she did end up working as a sex worker out of desperation, not really out of choice. Her siblings are taken away by the Canadian government. Her children are taken away into foster care for a time because she turns to drugs to cope with everything that's going on. This is the kind of memoir where someone sees their life in a way that's like, I don't know exactly how she's able to be so objective. It's not even objective. Like it's clearly subjective, but how she's able to just state it so clearly, everything that happened to her, because the things that she went through, the things that she did, so many of them are so crazy or stressful or terrible or awful that you're like, it takes so much bravery and vulnerability to publish it.
Yeah, 100%.
And one thing that's really interesting in the acknowledgments is that she talks about how at the time when she published this book, and especially at the time when she grew up, which again, I'm saying is like 85 years ago. She's 85 now, so we're almost a century ago. She could name 4 Indigenous authors that she knew. And she's like, now there are hundreds in Canada. She's like, her shelves, she has thousands of books written and published by Indigenous authors. Like, there is a beautiful turn that happens very near the end of the book where she's in her 30s and she starts to get involved in like political action and activism, and making real change in the Canadian government. It's so important, obviously, to understand the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada, especially as Canadians. But it's also so exciting that, like, I'm reading this book and I'm agreeing that, like, this period was a period where, like, again, no Indigenous people were being published. But now here I am. So many of the books that you read are Indigenous. Whenever I walk into any bookshop, there's Indigenous books everywhere here in Canada. I don't know, obviously, about anywhere else. But, like, it's so beautiful to get to see some of that change. And obviously she talks about in the acknowledgements, in the afterwards. There's still lots to do. But still, you got to see the wins where you see them, right? So that was added a beautiful perspective to the book where I was reading it and I was like, wow, it's horrible that she went through this. And obviously it's indicative of what so many people went through. But it's beautiful to know that there has been change. She talks about how beautiful that has been for her to see. She also talks a lot about her grandmother. Her relationship to her grandmother is so beautiful. But she also talks about how, like, her grandmother lived to be 104.
Wow.
And I know, it's amazing. And the stuff that her grandmother had to experience was so different than what she had to experience. And here we are almost another 100 years later. Do you know what I mean? So it's just fascinating, the passing of time and the generations. Harrowing, beautiful, honest, brave. Should I shoot out a couple more adjectives? I absolutely loved it. I really, really recommend it. And like I said, the audiobook, I cannot recommend highly enough. Her voice is so calming. She has a very beautiful reading voice. And yeah, it was just a really, really well done audiobook as well. And I had driven home from the city and I listened to more of the book in the car, and then I got home and I still had like an hour and a half left and I was like, I'm going to finish it. So I went and I sat down in my chair and I just listened to it and read along for the last hour and a half in a row. Because I was so stressed about Maria. Yeah. I was like, Maria, I need to hear you get out of this tricky spot that we're currently in the book. Like, it's so difficult to read. And then by the end, I was like, okay. She's a lovely 85-year-old lady now. You know, she did push through, but wow, what a ride. Anyways, Raeleen, you have to read it.
Oh, I'm so glad that you loved it. I knew you would. When you first started reading it and talked about it, I was like, this is going to be good. I already can tell.
So good. Okay, so now let us transition into what we are currently reading. I'm in the middle of 2 things. One that I'm loving. Ooh. The other, that's fine.
Okay, oh man, I can't wait to hear what this is. I can guess.
The one that I'm loving is Motherhood by Sheila Heti. I keep wanting to read it. I keep feeling like I want to like sneak out back and read a little more. While no one can see.
Reading under covers.
I am loving this reread. It's just so good. And I was saying to my friend, because we were talking about what we were reading and I was pitching motherhood, and I was like, I feel very certain that if this was by an American author, this would be a huge book. I think it got buried because it's a Canadian author and a Canadian press that published the book. And I think that it didn't get the marketing that it deserved. I don't think that enough people read it for it to kind of catch like wildfire on the internet.
Yeah.
I obviously know like people know about this book. It's not like the most obscure book, but I don't actually know that many people that have read it. And I just think it's such a shame. It's so good. It's so good. And the themes that it's exploring are phenomenal. I do think, now that I'm rereading it and thinking about all these things, I don't love the title. I don't think that the title encapsulates really what it's about.
Yeah.
Or because the thing about a title is we just have to admit it's marketing. The title in large, it's maybe is part of the art, but I think more importantly is part of the marketing.
Yeah.
And I think by calling it motherhood, it sounds, and actually this friend that I was talking to was like, oh, I thought that was like about a woman thinking about motherhood, like she's had children or something. And I'm like, no. It's about a woman who's thinking about whether or not she wants to have children. And that is such a fascinating theme. I don't know about you, Raeleen, but this theme has come up quite a lot with different friends. Do you want to have kids? We are at that age.
Yeah.
And that's a huge question. It's a massive question. It's a complete game changer, right? Like your life would completely change if you had children. And so the question is, do you want to do that? Do you not want to do that? Why? What is the thinking? It's a fascinating question. And this is a book exploring that question. And we have this character who is a writer. And so she's kind of like, I feel in many ways about having children as I do about writing books. And would I have to sacrifice that to do this other mission? Would I feel confident in that other mission and not care about the other mission anymore? Like, it's so good. It's so interesting. And it's got a fun little device in it. She says, have you ever heard of the I Ching? Yeah. So that, I don't know if people know much about that one. I'll just read this tiny little preface that it has in the book. It says, flipping 3 coins is a technique used by people who consult the I Ching, a divination system that originated in China over 3,000 years ago. Kings used it in time of war, and regular people used it to help them with life problems. By flipping 3 coins 6 times, one of 64 states is revealed, and a text elaborates their meaning. So it's like some fascinating divination thing. In the pages that follow, 3 coins are used, a technique inspired by the I Ching, but not the actual I Ching, which is something different. So basically, there's huge sections of this book that are her asking the coins questions. Oh. And she'll be like, was that fight fair with my partner just now? And she'll flip the coins, and it will say no. And she'll say, is it unfair because of what I said? And it'll flip the coins and it'll say yes. And then it'll flip but what's fascinating is Sheila Heti actually flipped those coins.
Right.
So she had to write in reaction to what the coins were actually saying to her.
That's cool.
And in that way, kind of, there's a large element of randomness with the writing of this book, which is fascinating.
That is really cool.
So anyways, I'm loving it. I want to keep reading it. I'm so excited that I'm rereading it. It's come at the perfect time. The book that I'm finding just fine is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield.
Yeah.
So when we're recording this, there's still a week before our live show, but when it comes out, the live show will have already happened. So I still have a week to finish this, but I've made some progress, and it's good. I don't hate it by any means. I don't even dislike it. I just feel quite neutral about it right now.
Yeah.
And the writing style that at the beginning I was really enjoying is a little bit wearing on me. I'm a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So we'll see. Like I say, I still have a long way to go. I still have a week to read this guy. So maybe my opinions will all change.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. It's a very divisive kind of book. Like it's hard to explain, hard to pin down. So I understand where you're at. Well, on to what I'm currently reading. So I just started reading this book kind of late last night, and read a decent chunk of it for how little time I had to read, because it's very engrossing and fun. And that is Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata. So as I mentioned, I'm kind of having troubles with my reading, and so I was like, gosh, I just need to read something that I know I will dive into head first and like not be able to stop reading. And I almost picked up Convenience Store Woman. I was this close.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, no, I can always just read that after. But I kind of want to read something fresh and new, something I haven't read yet. So I started reading this. I am now 76 pages into it. So I have a decent grasp on it. But it's a weird book. It's definitely a weird book. So if you've read any Sayaka Murata before, you'll know that her books are pretty weird. And this one is kind of giving me a little bit, like, it feels like Life Ceremony mixed with Earthlings a little bit. It has elements of both of those. Like some of the stories. Like, this feels like it could have been a story in Life Ceremony, but like expanded. Okay. That's kind of how I feel about it. So this book basically is about a like near future Japan where people don't like have sex anymore, basically, and it's kind of taboo, and people think that it's weird and gross if married couples do copulate, as they call it, particularly to have children. So they have this new system where everybody uses artificial insemination to get pregnant. And so it's kind of just like this weird, like non-sex world. And so the main character at the beginning of the book, she's like very obsessed with sex, like from, being young and going through puberty and everything. And she doesn't really understand why everybody is not into it. And like her mom was one of the last people who like had her through the usual way. And so she's like, her mom has been trying to like teach her, like, this is what I did and this is what's normal. But the world around her is telling her, no, this isn't normal. So it's very interesting, and we'll see where it goes. But so far it's just been like, it's been a very sexy book so far, I will say. And now it's gotten to a point where where I'm at now, that she is an adult and she has gotten married. And so we'll see where that goes. I know that there's a place called Experiment City, which she's talked about. Like, there's like a town or an area in Japan that got like transformed into this place called Experiment City. And I don't really know what that place is, but it seems like she's going to go there. So
interesting.
I'm intrigued. But yeah, it's very readable, very, very easy to read, as I find her books always are. So I'm having a good time with it.
Have you reread any books this year?
I reread I Am the Messenger at the beginning of the year.
Yes,
but I think that might be the only one.
That's interesting.
I have been thinking I need to reread something recently.
I just asked because you said you thought about reading Convenience Store Woman. So I was like, when was the last time that you did a reread? I actually don't think I haven't reread anything this year. Oh, really? Now I'm in the middle of motherhood, so that will be my first reread.
That's so funny. Because last year you were a rereading machine.
I really was, yeah.
So I feel like in my head you're just always rereading stuff, but I guess
I know it feels surprising to me too.
But now, since I reorganized my books, I put all of my favorite books like in this middle bookcase that I have, the skinnier one. And so now that I have them all together, it's going to make it easier for me to do a reread, I think. Because now when I look at them, I'm like, oh man, I love these books. These books are great. So it makes the TBR more exciting, and it makes the rereading potential more exciting too.
Cool. All right, shall we take a visit to the mailroom?
Oh, let's do it.
All right, I pulled, as always, some comments from YouTube. And let's start off with this comment from Raeleen. I can't tell if that's supposed to be different words. Love to hear about your reading and how it's changed this year. My reading has turned upside down from normally reading one book at a time in one format to reading like 10 to 20% of a book and picking it up a month or two later if I don't finish it in a week or so. So it sounds like this is a whole new reality of like only reading a bit of a book, putting it down, picking up another book, and then in a month finishing, going back and finishing it. It's always just so interesting to hear how people's reading is changing, or if you're doing something new that you haven't done before. Amanda Day says, the fastest time of your life is when you have a routine. Your mind just blends all those days together and it feels like you lose that time. This is very interesting because last week I started off by talking about how I feel like June has flown, and I still really feel that. I can't believe we're at the end of June.
It's actually crazy. Yeah.
That feels crazy to me. I agree with this. Do you agree with this, Raeleen, with this take that the fastest time of your life is when you have a routine?
I don't know. Like I most of the time have a routine. So I'm like, is that just always?
That's interesting.
I don't know.
I actually like avoid doing a weekly thing because of this. Like I've thought before, like maybe I should sign up for an X class, like a yoga class that I would do every Wednesday night. And I've actually avoided it because I don't like the feeling of every week doing the same thing because every week feels the same. And you're kind of just like, you create these new like markers where it's like, okay, I just did yoga. Now I have 1 week before I do it again. And I just did it again. Now I have 1 week before I do it again. It feels like it to me, I agree. Like it feels like it speeds up time in a way that I
can understand that for sure.
That's interesting.
That's spooky.
Okay, RK Buckham says, does Frankenstein count as physical tech gone wrong? Tech gone wrong. I feel like that's an interesting take. Tech gone wrong. Did you see the trailer for the new Frankenstein movie, by the way? Oscar Isaac.
Oh, well, it's going to be good. that clinches it. It's going to be awesome.
And you know what? Who else you love in it is Mia Goth.
Ooh, okay. I'm into that.
Jacob Elordi? Is that how you pronounce his last name? He's also in it. So I think he's Frankenstein.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So an interesting cast, and it's directed by Guillermo del Toro. It is a Netflix movie, so that is frightening.
Yeah.
The last Netflix movie I remember is Persuasion, and we all know how that went.
Yeah. Yikes.
But yeah, so I think I want people's takes on if Frankenstein counts as physical tech gone wrong. Because I actually haven't read Frankenstein, which always has felt like that's a massive mashed potato for me.
Yeah.
Okay, this final comment I'm extremely excited about. This is from Sarah Summers. She says, "Hello, I'm currently listening to your pod as I drive coast to coast across Canada. I started in Halifax and will be in British Columbia by August. Your pod is keeping me company, and I'm keeping my eye out for a copy of Albatross on my travels."
Oh my gosh.
And so I called Massey Books in Vancouver and I bought you Albatross so that you can pick it up, Sarah Summers. However, I then thought maybe you're not making it all the way to Vancouver. You might live in like the Okanagan Valley. So you need to respond to my comment on YouTube, because if you're not making it all the way to Vancouver, that's okay. I'll buy you a book somewhere else. I'll buy you Albatross somewhere else in BC. What's the biggest city you're passing through? Because I want you to get Albatross and not have to worry about it.
If you're going through Calgary, they pretty much always have copies at Page's bookstore as well. So.
Ooh, interesting.
That's another option.
Interesting. So let me know what you think there, Sarah. I already bought it, though. It already has your name on it. And there's a secret code. I was like, maybe I should put a secret code on this word. So actually, you should email us. Email us at booksunboundpodcast@gmail.com, Sarah, and I will coordinate with you.
Wow, that is so cool.
I got excited.
Hell yeah. I love that you did that.
All right, what comments did you find, Ray?
Okay, I'm just looking at our Patreon comments. The first one is from Victoria, who says, "This is my first time watching an episode early, and I've got to say, it's an amazing benefit. Patreon plug." So thanks, Victoria, for setting us up for that nice little plug. Yes, the episodes come out 2 days early on Patreon. So if Mondays aren't great for you, I mean, how about Saturdays? How about Sundays? You can listen to it early if you really wanted to. This next comment is from Forest Flower, who says, "Raeleen, I also just got the Wild Robot Escapes from the library. As I happen to be in a reading slump as well, I'm taking this as a sign to dive in." That's fun. So we probably just read it at the same time. I think that's really cute. That's really awesome. Oh, this comment from Adrian is probably a good one for us to read out. Adrian says, "I just recently re-listened to the episode 200 celebration and was like, they did so much for this. I wonder if they're planning anything for episode 300. My question was answered. I also realized with the big 5-year celebration last year and the big life events this year that EP 300 would probably be more low key." So yeah, we definitely have some things cooking, but it's low-key in tone, I would say.
That's interesting. I think it's become low-key to you because we've been planning it for so long. I don't think it is low-key. I think it's going to be awesome. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
I think it is going to be awesome,
cool.
but we don't have like 8 different elements going into it, which I think is what we did for episode 200.
Sometimes you just need one
Sometimes
epic.
it is really epic, so people should get excited. And the last comment I have here is for you, Ariel. I don't know if you will remember this, but Chrissia says, do you remember which book was the chosen one for the Books Unbound intro, which made the cut for the book flipping sound in the theme tune? Is it a Books Unbound book? Do you know?
Wow. I have no idea.
Yeah, I figured.
I have no idea. I wish I did, because actually that's a cool bit of trivia.
Right.
But no, I would have just like picked up a book that was
it's just
nearby
any
and
book.
flipped.
Yeah.
It was just a book. But in a way, that's kind of beautiful, right? It's every book.
It's everyone.
All right, before we head out, I have one more plug. This has kind of been a pluggy episode, but that's okay. All of our merch is on sale 50% off.
Yeah.
We are doing a massive sale. Now, this is because we're planning some new merch stuff and we need to clear out of everything. And so I took this sale seriously and I was like, can we mark everything literally half off? Mm-hmm. Which is crazy. Like, how everything seems so cheap to me now.
Yeah.
Like like we price things based on what they cost us to make, right? And like things are just more expensive to make at small scale than if you were manufacturing something massive. And also like all of the t-shirts that I make and whatever, I try and get as sustainably and ethically as possible. And so they're just naturally more expensive. But like right now, all of the t-shirts are $16. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like our mini stamps are $3. Like everything is so cheap when it's cut in half. Mm-hmm. So if you've had your eye on merch before, now is the time. Books Unbound merch is all half off. Most of it has already sold out, but there is still some washi tape left, and I think maybe one other thing. But also all of my merch, all of the Beset book stuff is on sale as well. So if you've ever wanted to get, and I'm thinking about books, hat or t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, or hoodie. Actually, the hoodies are sold out. Crew neck.
Ooh.
They're all available now. So please do check them out, because a lot of these things we will never make again. Once we sell out of them, we're kind of like, okay, on to a new chapter.
Yeah.
And this sale is only going to last for the summer or until we sell out of things. So at the end of August, we're closing down our shop as we rethink what we're going to do next, which is exciting. Very exciting. So wanted to do that plug. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Whatever you're reading, I hope that you're liking it, because apparently that's difficult these days.
It's a hard ask.
All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.